I can confirm that NATO airstrikes against Serb forces have begun, and that UK forces are engaged in this action. Any political leader thinks long and hard before committing forces to action, and the inevitable risks that are attached to it. I would not take this course if I did not think it was the right thing to do. I want to pay tribute at the outset to our armed forces. We owe a huge debt to them for their courage and their professionalism. Tonight there are families in Britain who will be feeling a real sense of anxiety. They can feel too, however, a real sense of pride at the contribution their loved ones are making to peace and stability in Europe. We are taking this action for one very simple reason: to damage Serb forces sufficiently to prevent Milosevic from continuing to perpetrate his vile oppression against the Kosovo Albanian people. Already 400,000 people have been displaced. Over 250,000 remain homeless. In the last week alone, 25,000 people have been driven from their homes. These are the harsh and real facts. Kosovo is right on Europe's doorstep. As previous Balkan crises have shown, the effects are felt far and wide. And as I said yesterday, there are now more than 1 million refugees from former Yugoslavia in European Union countries. Let me set out too some of the background to the story about the region and the man who has brought it so much death and barbarism. Milosevic came to power in 1987 by exploiting Serb nationalism. He threw aside the ethnically balanced arrangements which held Yugoslavia together for 45 years. In 1989, he stripped Kosovo of the autonomy it had enjoyed for 40 years and imposed direct control from Belgrade. In 1991, in the face of revolts in Slovenia and Croatia, his army laid siege to the Croatian city of Vukovar, and the following summer shelled the historic port city of Dubrovnik. In 1992, he helped trigger the Bosnian War, in which some 250,000 Bosnians were killed. He gave to the world the hideous term ethnic cleansing, as over 2 million people were driven from their homes, mainly by the Serbs. The Bosnian War went on until 1995 and only ended when NATO summoned the resolve to use force. Events on the ground finally turned against the Serb forces, and Milosevic was forced to sign up to the Dayton Agreement. In Kosovo, the conflict has smoldered for years as Kosovo Albanians, 90% of the population there, tried to regain self-rule. Last March, Serb forces massacred 60 to 80 Kosovars in and around the village of Prikaz, triggering a sharp worsening of the conflict. Hundreds then died as Serb forces and the Kosovar Liberation Army battled it out. Hundreds of thousands of people were, as I've described, made homeless. Many returned, however, after a ceasefire last October, negotiated by the US envoy Richard Holbrooke. Again, only when NATO threatened force unless the killing stopped did Milosevic back down. He agreed then to the 2,000-strong Kosovo verification mission, backed by air verification through NATO. He also agreed to reduce Serb forces to the pre-February 1998 levels and withdraw his heavy weapons. So that was the agreement he made last October. But he broke his word again. The ceasefire broke down again. The killing resumed again. Serb force levels went back to where they had started. In January, following the massacre of 45 civilians at Ratchak, We demanded that Milosevic cease the repression and take a constructive part in peace talks. He pretended to comply, but in reality, as we know, he did not do so. Still, even then, we tried to get him to walk the path of peace. In talks, chaired jointly by the UK and by France, we constructed an agreement. It was difficult to do, but we did it. The Kosovo Albanians signed it. Milosevic rejected it again. Nobody in the light of this history can say either that we have not tried to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict, or that Milosevic has not been warned of the consequences of continuing to repress the civilian population in Kosovo. As I said yesterday, there are serious consequences for our forces and for the people of the region in the action we are taking. Tonight's attack alone will not bring the curtain down on the scenes you have been witnessing, of families fleeing their homes and trudging towards as yet undiscovered sanctuary. Nor can we be sure about how Milosevic will respond, but I repeat this warning. Just as we have made good the threat to attack if he did not comply with the agreement he'd entered into, so if there is retaliation against NATO forces elsewhere in the region, our response will be swift and severe. The forces ranged against Milosevic are truly international. NATO is united. Of the 30 nations who have made aircraft available, 8 are in action tonight. Britain is a peaceful nation. We are a peaceful people who take no joy in war. But we know from our own history and from our own character that there are times when we have to stand up and fight for peace, when force is the final resort of those who know that the only peace that ever lasts is a just peace, a peace based on justice. Justice is all that those poor people, driven from their homes in their thousands in Kosovo, are asking for. The chance to live free from fear. We have in our power the means to help them secure justice. And we have a duty to see that justice is now done. Thank you.
My fellow Americans, today our armed forces joined our NATO allies in airstrikes against Serbian forces responsible for the brutality in Kosovo. We have acted with resolve for several reasons. We act to
This place, Kosovo, is right on the doorstep of Europe. It's right next door to Greece, to Italy, to places people are very, very familiar with in Britain. This is why we have to act. It's not that we enjoy the spectacle of using military force. We don't. We shrink from it. We've tried for months to avoid it. But we're doing it because we genuinely believe in the name of humanity and in the name of peace in this region, we have no alternative.
The renewed NATO assault has followed the same pattern as yesterday. As dusk approached, the planes began taking off from their bases in Italy. These stealth fighters were some of the first. More and more aircraft joined the circling armada, and out in the Adriatic, US ships were again firing salvos of cruise missiles. Then at about 7 this evening, reports came in from Kosovo that a series of loud explosions had been heard near the capital, Pristina. From NATO headquarters, there was a brief announcement confirming the bombardment had resumed.
We either have to have a choice for peace by Serbia, not just stopping the killing for an hour or two, but a choice for peace, or we will do our best to limit their ability to make war on those people.
But there seems little evidence that Yugoslavia is backing down. It's broken diplomatic relations with Britain and other NATO countries, and President Milosevic has been congratulating his forces on standing up to the NATO